You spent our education fund on what? I gasped, feeling the room spin around me as I gripped the edge of my desk, staring at my laptop screen in disbelief. The Zoom meeting's familiar grid of faces seemed to blur together, except for Nathan's pale, guilty expression and Vivian's perfectly composed features. My heart pounded against my ribs as I struggled to process what I'd just discovered through the shared screen: our son's entire college savings, gone. Now, Audrey, Vivian, my mother-in-law, interjected with her practiced smile, her image crystal clear in her expensively decorated study. I'm sure Nathan was just thinking of family, isn't that right, dear? I gripped my coffee mug tighter, my knuckles turning white. My name is Audrey, and I just discovered my husband had betrayed me in the worst way possible through a family Zoom call. It's an investment, Nathan mumbled, his eyes darting away from the camera. Mom and Dad needed help with their property taxes, and this was the quickest solution. I thought you'd understand. Understand? I hissed, struggling to keep my voice low so Oliver wouldn't hear from his online class in the next room. You transferred our entire savings without even talking to me. How is that an investment? Lawrence, my father-in-law, cleared his throat, his silver hair catching the light of his study. Now, let's not make a scene during our weekly family meeting. We're all family here. I let out a bitter laugh, the sound echoing in my home office. Family? Is that what you call this? Secretly moving money behind my back? Vivian's eyes narrowed, her perfectly maintained appearance somehow making her disapproval even more cutting. I don't appreciate your tone, young lady, after all we've done for you and that little online business of yours. Done for me? I cut her off, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. You've done nothing but criticize and undermine me since the day I married your son. My little business is more legitimate than this theft. Nathan reached closer to his camera, as if trying to reach through the screen. Honey, please, can we discuss this privately later? No, we can't. I snapped, clicking the bank statement tab to the forefront of my shared screen. I want to know exactly how much of our money you transferred for these property taxes. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of our computers. Nathan shifted uncomfortably in his gaming chair, while Vivian's smug expression spoke volumes. All of it, Nathan finally whispered. The transfer. It took all of Oliver's education fund. The room tilted dangerously. I stood up abruptly, my chair rolling back against the wall. I need some air. And Nathan? Don't you dare leave this meeting. We're not done. As I walked away from my desk, I heard Vivian's voice drift through my headphones. Really, Nathan, I don't know why you put up with such dramatics. Especially from someone who couldn't even finish art school. I gripped the kitchen counter, gulping in deep breaths as I stared out the window at our quiet suburban street. The morning sun felt like a mockery of this nightmare. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone, opening my shop's analytics dashboard. The steady growth of my handmade jewelry business had been my pride, my path to independence. Now it felt impossibly small compared to the mountain of money Nathan had just given away. The soft ping of my laptop echoed from my home office, probably another message in the ongoing family Zoom call. Through the open door, I could hear Nathan's hesitant voice. I should go check on her. I whirled around as his footsteps approached, fury blazing in my chest. He stood in the doorway, headphones around his neck, looking lost in his wrinkled work-from-home clothes. Audrey, I'm sorry. I should have told you. Told me? I struggled to keep my voice low, conscious of Oliver's online class down the hall. You should have discussed it with me. We're supposed to be partners, Nathan. How could you make such a huge decision without me? He ran a hand through his unkempt hair, his wedding ring catching the light. They're my parents, Audrey. The property taxes on their house doubled, and with the market crash. And what about us? I demanded, gesturing to the kitchen where Oliver's school schedule was pinned to the fridge. What about our future? Our son's future? Nathan's eyes widened. Oliver? He's fine. This doesn't affect him. I laughed incredulously, pulling up my phone's banking app. Doesn't affect him? That money was for his college fund, Nathan. For his future. For emergencies. We can save again, he said weakly. Your shop is doing well, and I might get that promotion. That's not the point. I exploded, then immediately lowered my voice, glancing toward Oliver's room. You betrayed my trust. You put your parents before your own family. The laptop pinged again, and Vivian's voice carried down the hall. Nathan? Is everything all right out there? We're still waiting to discuss the summer plans. I bit back a scathing retort, forcing a smile into my voice. We'll be right there, Vivian. As soon as Nathan turned back toward the office, I grabbed his arm. This isn't over. We need to have a serious talk about our future. He nodded, relief washing over his face. Of course. We'll figure it out, I promise. But as we walked back to our respective desks to rejoin the Zoom call, the sickening realization hit me: this wasn't just about money. It was about loyalty, respect, and the very foundation of our marriage. I opened my chat with Harper, my best friend, and quickly typed, 911. Need to talk. Family Zoom drama just exploded. Vivian beamed at her camera, her perfectly styled hair catching the light of her expensive ring lights. Now, isn't this lovely? All of us together, like one big happy family. I was just telling Lawrence about the most wonderful private school I found for Oliver. I stared at my screen, absently clicking through my Etsy shop notifications, imagining they were something else entirely. Just wonderful, I muttered. As the conversation drifted to their country club membership renewal, I found myself withdrawing, observing the dynamics in each Zoom window with new eyes. Nathan, constantly glancing between his parents' windows and mine, Vivian, dominating the conversation with her carefully curated background, Lawrence, occasionally nodding off but jerking awake whenever Vivian cleared her throat, and me. I was the outsider, my simple home office backdrop a stark contrast to their luxurious surroundings. But as I watched Vivian manipulate the conversation, steering it towards her latest charity board triumph, a spark of defiance ignited within me. I minimized my shop's analytics and opened my notes app, starting to document every word, every subtle dig. So, Audrey, Vivian's voice cut through my thoughts. How is little Oliver doing with his online classes? Still struggling with that public school's distance learning program, is he? I gritted my teeth, recognizing the subtle jab. Actually, he's thriving. His teacher says he's one of the top students in his virtual classroom now. Vivian's smile tightened, her expensive earrings catching the light as she adjusted her posture. Oh. Well, I'm sure Nathan's genes are finally kicking in. The Caldwells have always been exceptionally bright. I felt my blood begin to boil, my cursor hovering over the record meeting button, but before I could click it, Nathan jumped in. Mom, did I tell you about the new project I'm managing at the firm? As Vivian's attention shifted, lavishing praise on her darling boy, I sat back and continued taking notes, taking screenshots of particularly telling moments. My phone buzzed a text from Harper, just saw your message. Call me as soon as you can. My co-working space is always open if you need an escape. The pieces were falling into place, revealing a pattern I'd been blind to for far too long. This wasn't just about money or property taxes, it was about control, about keeping Nathan firmly under their influence, even at the expense of his own family. Well, I thought opening my Instagram business account and starting to draft a story, two can play at that game. My followers had always appreciated my authenticity. Maybe it was time to be really authentic about family dynamics. As the endless Zoom call finally wound down, I sat in my home office, surrounded by the digital remnants of my day, open tabs showing bank statements, screenshots of telling conversations, and my shop's steadily growing sales metrics. The LED ring light I used for product photos cast harsh shadows across my workspace as evening settled in. And don't forget, dear, Vivian's final words lingered in my head. We simply must discuss Oliver's summer enrichment programs. I've found several excellent private options. I opened my browser history, methodically documenting every instance of their interference. The property tax payment was just the tip of the iceberg. There were the constant Zoom check-ins, the barrage of emails about Oliver's education, the passive-aggressive comments on every social media post about my business. Mommy? Oliver's voice pulled me from my thoughts. He stood in the doorway, tablet in hand. Can I show you my science project? Of course, sweetie. I minimized my documentation window, forcing a smile. He bounded over, showing me his virtual solar system model, his eyes bright with excitement. Mrs. Thompson says it's the best in class, he beamed. Can I show Grandma Vivian? I felt my chest tighten. Maybe tomorrow, honey. It's getting late. But Grandma always wants to see my school stuff right away, he persisted. She says it's important to maintain high standards. The words, so clearly Vivian's, coming from my 8-year-old's mouth, made my stomach turn. I pulled him into a hug, breathing in the scent of his shampoo. Your work is already amazing, Oliver. You don't need Grandma's approval for everything. Audrey? Nathan's voice came from the hallway. Mom's trying to FaceTime. She wants to discuss those summer programs. Not tonight, I called back firmly, hugging Oliver closer. I need to help our son with his science project. I heard Nathan sigh, followed by his footsteps retreating and his muffled voice making excuses to his mother. Small victories, I thought, opening my chat with Harper again. Still up for that coffee tomorrow? I typed. I need to show you something, and I could use a change of scenery from my home office. The modern co-working space buzzed with quiet energy, so different from my stifling home office. I sat in a corner booth, my laptop open to a spreadsheet of carefully documented incidents, my hands trembling as I dialed Harper's number. Harper? My voice cracked as she answered. I need help. I can't keep doing this. I'm already here, she replied without hesitation. By the coffee bar. I saw your Instagram story, the one about family dynamics that you deleted after 10 minutes. What happened? 20 minutes later, Harper slid into the booth across from me, 2 oat milk lattes in hand, her freelance designer's eye taking in my disheveled appearance. I spilled everything: the education fund, Vivian's digital surveillance, Nathan's betrayal. Look at these screenshots, I said, turning my laptop toward her. Every comment, every helpful suggestion about Oliver's education, every criticism of my business. Harper's expression darkened with each swipe. Oh, Audrey, she breathed, why didn't you tell me sooner about the extent of this? I shrugged helplessly, taking a sip of my latte. I thought I could handle it, that managing it all online would make it easier somehow. Keep them at a safe distance. Well, that ends now. Harper pulled out her iPad, her design portfolio forgotten. First things first, we need to organize all this evidence. Every Zoom recording, every email, every message. Build a digital paper trail. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. But how? The business is just starting to take off, and Oliver. Hey, a warm voice interrupted. We looked up to see Marcus, the co-working space owner, approaching with a concerned expression. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing. We've got a private meeting room available if you need more privacy. I nodded gratefully, gathering my laptop. As we followed Marcus to the glass-walled room, I felt a subtle shift in the atmosphere, like finally finding a safe space to breathe. Marcus closed the door behind us, the soundproofed walls immediately creating a sense of sanctuary. I know we haven't officially met, he said, but Harper's told me about your jewelry business. And he hesitated, about your situation. I sank into one of the ergonomic chairs, my laptop open to the growing document of evidence. Is it that obvious? Let's just say I recognize the signs, he said kindly. My sister went through something similar. The financial control, the constant surveillance, the family meetings that turn into interrogations. Harper touched my arm. That's why I suggested meeting here. Marcus's space isn't just for entrepreneurs, it's a community. Over the next few weeks, the co-working space became my sanctuary. I started a detailed digital journal, meticulously recording Vivian's behavior, the way she'd accidentally report my Instagram posts for fake products, how she'd schedule Zoom calls with Oliver's teachers without consulting me, the constant stream of critical comments on my business page thinly veiled as constructive feedback. Really, Audrey, her latest email read, "Are you sure about this new collection? The pricing seems ambitious for someone at your level. Don't you think you should focus on Oliver's summer enrichment instead?" I'd smile tightly, adding the email to my evidence folder. Each entry strengthened my resolve. Nathan remained oblivious, or perhaps willfully ignorant. When I tried to discuss Vivian's digital harassment, he'd brush it off. "You're being too sensitive," he'd say during our nightly video calls when he worked late. "Mom's just trying to help your business grow." I stopped trying to make him understand. Instead, I focused on Oliver, monitoring his online activities and creating boundaries around his virtual interactions with his grandparents. One afternoon, as I was helping him with his virtual homework at my co-working space desk, Vivian's FaceTime call popped up on his tablet. "Oh, let me handle this," she cooed through the screen. "Oliver needs proper academic guidance, not craft projects." I closed the call window, ignoring the immediate barrage of messages that followed. Later that night, I logged into Nathan's cloud storage, using the password he'd never bothered to change. A notification caught my eye, an email draft from Vivian to Nathan. My finger hovered over the trackpad. It was wrong to snoop, but I clicked. "Darling," the email read, "I'm concerned about Audrey's influence on Oliver's academic development. Perhaps we should consider more structured online learning options. After all, blood is thicker than water." My blood ran cold. They were trying to take control of my son's education completely. I met Harper at our usual corner of Marcus's space, my nerves frayed. "They want to control Oliver's entire education," I whispered, showing her the email I'd forwarded to myself. "They're trying to push their way into every aspect of his virtual learning." Harper's eyes widened as she scrolled through her tablet. "This is serious, Audrey. We need to act fast." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts. "Look, I've been thinking. Your jewelry business is doing well online, right? And Marcus mentioned he's looking for someone to manage the co-working space's social media and online presence. It's not much, but it could be a steady income stream." I hesitated, adjusting my laptop screen. "I don't know, Harper. The shop's growing, but it's not enough to support us fully yet." "And what about Oliver's online schooling?" "One step at a time," she said firmly. "First, we secure your financial independence. The space has great Wi-Fi, and there's even a quiet corner where Oliver can do his virtual classes. Then, we tackle the rest. That evening, I returned home to find several missed calls from Vivian. As I checked my notifications, I heard her voice carrying from Oliver's tablet in the living room. "I just don't understand why she can't be more grateful," she was saying to someone. "After all we've done for her." I paused in the hallway, recording app ready on my phone. Lawrence's placating tone replied, "Now, dear, Audrey's trying her best with that little online shop of hers." "Her best?" Vivian scoffed. "She spends all day taking pictures of trinkets when she should be focusing on Oliver's education. It's a good thing we're here to guide him properly through his virtual learning." My hands clenched into fists, my phone still recording. Every instinct screamed at me to burst in, to end the call, but I held back, remembering my goal. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about protecting Oliver from their suffocating digital presence. I retreated to my home office, pulling up my documentation spreadsheet. As I added the new recording, a sense of calm settled over me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I had a clear path forward. The next morning, I called Marcus. "I'd love to hear more about that social media position," I said, my voice steady. "And about that private office space we discussed." As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in my ring light. The woman staring back at me looked different, stronger, more determined. I thought of Oliver, of the life I wanted for us, of the example I wanted to set for my son. No more silent suffering. No more letting Vivian dictate our lives through screens and digital manipulation. It was time to take control. I opened my evidence folder, reviewing pages of screenshots, recordings, and emails documenting their manipulation. Soon, very soon, I'd have enough to make my stand. And when I did, Vivian, Nathan, and anyone else who tried to come between me and my son would learn just how formidable I could be. The silent digital rebellion had begun, and I was ready for war. The morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus's co-working space, glinting off my laptop screen where my latest jewelry collection photos waited to be uploaded. The space hummed with quiet productivity, so different from the suffocating atmosphere of video calls with the Caldwells. "How's the new social media campaign going?" Marcus asked, setting down a fresh cup of coffee at my dedicated desk. His co-working space had become more than just an office, it was a sanctuary. "The engagement metrics are up 50% since last week," I replied, pulling up my analytics dashboard. "Turns out people really connect with authentic stories about small business struggles." "And the other, documentation?" he asked quietly, glancing at my second monitor where a folder labeled Family Records sat minimized. I nodded, my stomach churning with a mixture of nervousness and determination. "Almost ready. My lawyer says we have more than enough." "Mom? Can I show Mr. Marcus my science presentation?" Oliver called from his designated study corner, where he attended his virtual classes. The space had worked out perfectly. He had his own quiet area for school, while still being close enough for me to monitor his online activities. As Oliver eagerly demonstrated his project, my phone buzzed with another message from Vivian. "Audrey, dear, I've taken the liberty of enrolling Oliver in an elite online tutoring program. The invoice has been sent to Nathan. We can discuss reducing your little shop's hours to accommodate the schedule." I added the message to my evidence folder without responding. My hand hovered over the keyboard, tempted to fire back a response, when Harper burst through the door, her face flushed with excitement. "You're not going to believe this," she said, pulling up a chair. "Remember that arts education nonprofit I mentioned? They want to partner with your jewelry business for their summer program. Full social media campaign, workshops for kids, everything." I stared at her, my mind racing. But Vivian's summer plans. Exactly, Harper grinned. Time to show them what you can really do. Absolutely not. Vivian's voice crackled through my AirPods, her face reddening on my screen. Oliver needs proper academic enrichment, not craft projects. I sat straighter in my co-working space chair, feeling Marcus and Harper's supportive presence just outside the private meeting room. This is a legitimate arts education program, Vivian. The nonprofit has an excellent reputation. But we've already arranged his summer schedule, she pressed, her perfectly manicured hand gesturing to some unseen document. The online tutoring, the virtual music lessons, the junior investment club. Actually, I interrupted, sharing my screen to display the nonprofit's website. I've already enrolled Oliver. As his mother, I've made this decision. Nathan's face appeared in his Zoom window, looking panicked. Audrey, maybe we should discuss this privately. Why? I asked calmly, continuing to screen share as I navigated to my evidence folder. Like we discussed the education fund privately? Or Oliver's tutoring expenses? Vivian's eyes narrowed. Nathan, control your wife's screen. She's being ridiculous. No, I'm being a mother, I said, opening the first document. And I've documented everything, Vivian. Every manipulative message, every unauthorized decision about Oliver's education, every attempt to undermine my business. Would you like to see the timestamps? The silence that followed was broken only by the soft hum of my laptop fan. Lawrence appeared in his window, looking uncomfortable. Now, let's not be hasty. I'm not being hasty, I replied, my voice steady. I'm being methodical. Just like I've been for the past 3 months, documenting every instance of interference in my family's life. Nathan's face had gone pale. Audrey, what are you saying? I'm saying that things are going to change, I answered, switching to my business analytics dashboard. My jewelry business is thriving. I'm managing social media for a successful co-working space. I'm partnering with a respected nonprofit. And I'm done letting you control our lives through guilt and financial manipulation. You ungrateful little Vivian started, but I cut her off by playing a recording of her earlier conversation about my trinkets. I have hundreds of these, I said quietly. Every dismissive comment, every unauthorized decision, every attempt to control Oliver's education through digital means. My lawyer has copies of everything. The word lawyer fell like a bomb into the Zoom call. Vivian's carefully composed face crumpled for a moment before she caught herself. Nathan, she hissed, do something. But Nathan was staring at his screen, watching as I methodically displayed screenshot after screenshot. I had no idea it was this bad, he whispered. No, I agreed, you didn't. Because you didn't want to see it. But now you have to decide, Nathan. Are you going to keep enabling this, or are you going to start being a real partner and father? Audrey, Nathan pleaded, his face filling his Zoom window as he leaned closer to his camera, we can work this out. I'll talk to Mom, make her understand. Make me understand? Vivian cut in, her voice rising. I'm not the one destroying this family with ridiculous accusations and amateur jewelry. I smiled, clicking to share a new screen, my shop's revenue analytics. Amateur? My little business made more last month than your property tax bill, Vivian. The one you needed our son's education fund to pay. A notification popped up on my screen, Oliver's teacher requesting to join the call. I quickly declined it, making a mental note to follow up later. This wasn't something he needed to witness. Speaking of money, I continued, switching to a spreadsheet. I've documented every unauthorized expense, every enrichment program you've signed Oliver up for without my consent, every attempt to force us into financial decisions that benefit you. Would you like me to share that next? Those were investments in our grandson's future. Lawrence protested, finally finding his voice. No, I said firmly, they were attempts to maintain control. But that ends now. Nathan, I'm sending you my lawyer's contact information. We need to discuss new arrangements. Nathan's face crumpled. Arrangements? What do you mean? It means I'm taking Oliver and moving into my own place. I've already found one near the co-working space. You can have supervised visits away from your parents' influence. You can't do this. Vivian shrieked, her perfectly curated background shaking as she moved. We'll fight you. I held up my phone, displaying the recording app. Every word of this call is being recorded, Vivian. Just like I've recorded every threatening message, every manipulative interaction, every attempt to alienate my son from me through digital means. Do you really want all of this coming out in court? For the first time, I saw genuine fear in Vivian's eyes. The realization that her carefully constructed digital web of control was being used against her seemed to age her instantly. Nathan, she pleaded, tell her she's being unreasonable. But Nathan sat frozen, his eyes fixed on something off-screen. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. She's right, Mom. This has to stop. The silence that followed was deafening. I used the moment to open my email, sending Nathan the carefully prepared document from my lawyer. I'm not trying to keep Oliver from you, I said softly. I just want us to be free from manipulation. To be a healthy family. Family? Vivian spat. You're destroying our family. No, Vivian, I replied, my finger hovering over the leave meeting button. I'm saving what's left of it. Nathan, check your email. My lawyer expects your response by Friday. As I clicked to leave the call, I heard Vivian's voice rise in protest, but the sound cut off abruptly, leaving me in the blessed silence of my private office at the co-working space. Through the glass walls, I could see Oliver working on his science project, Harper and Marcus keeping him engaged and protected from the drama unfolding just a few feet away. My phone buzzed a text from Nathan, can we talk? Just us? No parents, no lawyers. Please. I stared at the message for a long moment before replying, tomorrow. At the co-working space. Bring the education fund statements. The early morning quiet of the co-working space was broken only by the gentle hum of the espresso machine as Nathan walked in, looking out of place in his corporate casual attire among the creative entrepreneurs. He clutched a manila envelope, the education fund statements I'd requested. You look good, he said awkwardly, taking in my confident posture at my dedicated desk, surrounded by product photography equipment and social media analytics displays. The business is really taking off, huh? It is, I replied, gesturing to the chair across from me. Did you bring the statements? He nodded, sinking into the chair and sliding the envelope across my desk. Audrey, before we get into this. I'm sorry. I've been doing a lot of thinking since yesterday's call. And? I kept my voice neutral, though my heart was racing. You're right. About everything. Mom's control, the manipulation, how I've failed you and Oliver. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. I've been talking to a therapist, actually. Started last week. I paused in opening the envelope, studying his face. Really? Yeah. After that day, you showed me the recordings of Mom talking to Oliver about his academic standards. I couldn't sleep. Started looking up some things online about family dynamics, controlling parents. He swallowed hard. Found some stuff that hit pretty close to home. A notification popped up on my laptop, another message from Vivian about Oliver's summer schedule. I declined it without breaking eye contact with Nathan. That's good, Nathan. But it doesn't change what happened with the education fund. I know, he said quickly. I've already talked to the bank. I can pull the money back from Mom and Dad's account. Not all of it, but most. And I've been looking at remote work opportunities with better pay, companies that actually respect work-life balance. Stop, I held up my hand. This isn't about money anymore. Well, not entirely. It's about trust. Partnership. Being able to make decisions about our son's life without your parents' digital surveillance and constant interference. Through the glass walls, I could see Oliver arriving with Harper for his daily study session. He waved excitedly at both of us before settling into his corner, completely unaware of the tension between his parents. I want to fix this, Nathan said, following my gaze to our son. Tell me how to fix this. Step 1, I said, pulling up my calendar. We establish clear boundaries. No more unauthorized Zoom calls with Oliver. No more surprise educational programs. No more criticizing my business on social media. Nathan nodded, taking notes on his phone. And my parents? They get supervised virtual visits only, at least for now. All communication goes through both of us, with screen recordings. No private messages, no secret FaceTime calls. Mom will hate that, he said quietly. I know, I replied, pulling up a spreadsheet. But look at this, I've documented every instance of interference in the past 6 months. Every emergency family meeting that disrupted Oliver's school schedule, every critical comment about my parenting on social media, every attempt to make financial decisions without my input. Nathan's face paled as he scrolled through the document. I knew some of this was happening, but seeing it all laid out like this. That's the problem, Nathan. You saw it happening and did nothing. That has to change. A notification popped up on my screen, Marcus asking if we needed anything. I smiled, feeling grateful for the safe space he'd provided. I'll do whatever it takes, Nathan said, his voice firm for the first time. I've already started looking at apartments near here. Something with a good setup for remote work and Oliver's virtual schooling. I raised an eyebrow. You're moving out of your parents' guest house? He nodded. Called the realtor this morning. Mom doesn't know yet. He managed a weak smile. Maybe I'll finally get to set up my own Zoom background without her input. Despite everything, I felt a glimmer of hope. Not for us as a couple, that trust was too badly broken, but for us as parents, maybe we could find a new way forward. One more thing, I said, opening my evidence folder. I need you to read through all of this. Really read it. Understand what your parents have been doing to our family through their digital manipulation. And then I need you to stand with me when we tell them about the new arrangements. The familiar grid of faces appeared on my screen, but this time I felt different. Nathan sat beside me in the co-working space's meeting room, our laptops side by side, presenting a united front. This is ridiculous, Vivian declared, her face tight with anger even through the screen. Meeting in some shared office space to discuss family matters. This isn't up for discussion, Nathan said firmly, his voice steady. We're here to tell you how things will be moving forward, not to negotiate. I pulled up the document we'd prepared. From now on, all communication about Oliver goes through both of us. No private messages, no surprise virtual tutoring sessions, no unauthorized financial decisions. You can't cut us off from our grandson. Vivian protested, while Lawrence shifted uncomfortably in his background. We're not cutting you off, I explained, sharing my screen to show a carefully structured schedule. You'll have regular video calls with Oliver, supervised, scheduled, and recorded. But the manipulation ends now. Manipulation? Vivian's voice rose. Everything we've done has been for this family. Nathan, surely you don't agree with this digital imprisonment? Actually, Mom, I do. Nathan leaned forward, his face filling his video window. I've read through all the evidence. Seen all the messages, the social media comments, the financial records. It stops now, or you don't get virtual visits at all. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft whir of laptop fans. Through the glass walls, I could see Oliver working with Harper on his latest science project, safe from the tension of this confrontation. This isn't over, Vivian finally said, her voice cold. Lawrence, call our lawyer. Already sent them everything, I replied calmly, pulling up another file. Every screenshot, every recording, every document. Would you like me to share them in this call? Vivian's face paled, but before she could respond, Lawrence spoke up. Enough, Vivian. They're right. We've gone too far. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows of Marcus's co-working space as I adjusted my ring light for a product photography session. My latest jewelry collection was laid out on my desk, each piece telling a story of growth and independence. The analytics on your last Instagram campaign were incredible, Marcus commented, setting down a fresh coffee at my workstation. The authenticity really resonates with people. I smiled, glancing at Oliver in his study corner, where he was focused on his virtual science class. The past 6 months had brought changes I never could have imagined. He's really thriving now, isn't he? Harper's voice came from her nearby desk, where she was working on designs for our upcoming youth arts workshop. I nodded, watching my son confidently participate in his online class. The difference is amazing. No more stress about surprise tutoring sessions or unexpected Zoom calls with Grandma. The supervised virtual visits with Vivian and Lawrence had gradually become more manageable. While Vivian still occasionally slipped in a critical comment about my business, the recordings of each call kept her mostly in check. Nathan had kept his word, maintaining his own apartment nearby and respecting our new digital boundaries. Our co-parenting schedule worked smoothly, with Oliver splitting his virtual school time between our workspaces. Mom! Oliver called out excitedly, waving me over to his desk. Look what I made in science class today. As I walked over to admire his virtual science fair project, my phone buzzed with a notification, a text from Nathan, parent-teacher conference tomorrow at 3? I'll send you the Zoom link. I smiled, responding with a quick thumbs up. This was how it should be: simple, respectful, focused on Oliver's well-being. Through the co-working space windows, I could see the city stretching out before us, full of possibilities. My jewelry business was flourishing, the youth arts program was taking off, and most importantly, Oliver was happy. The woman reflected in my computer screen was unrecognizable from the one who had discovered that betrayal 6 months ago. She stood taller, smiled more freely, ran her business with confidence. The digital paper trail I'd created had given me more than just evidence, it had given me my power back. My phone buzzed again, this time a message from Vivian, looking forward to our scheduled call with Oliver tomorrow. The usual time? No demands, no criticism, no manipulation. Just a simple request following our established protocols. Progress, I thought, as I typed a polite confirmation. Not perfect, but progress. The sunset painted the co-working space in warm hues as I wrapped up my last product photography session. Oliver was packing up his study materials, chatting excitedly about tomorrow's virtual science fair. Ready to head home, sweetie? I asked, carefully storing my camera equipment. Can we stop by Dad's first? I want to show him my project before the fair tomorrow. Of course, I smiled, sending Nathan a quick heads-up text. My phone screen showed a string of recent notifications, orders from my online shop, comments on my latest Instagram post, and a calendar reminder for tomorrow's supervised call with the grandparents. "You know," Marcus said, approaching my desk as I packed up, "when you first started working here, I wasn't sure you'd make it. You looked haunted." I paused, considering his words. I was. Controlled, manipulated, afraid. But documenting everything, building evidence, it wasn't just about protection. It was about reclaiming my narrative. "And now look at you," Harper chimed in, gesturing to my thriving workspace. "Running a successful business, managing the space's social media, leading youth workshops. More importantly," I added, watching Oliver proudly show his science project to another co-working member, "being the mother he deserves." My phone buzzed, Nathan confirming we could stop by. Our new normal wasn't perfect, but it was honest. The digital boundaries we'd established had created space for real relationships to grow. "Ready, Mom?" Oliver called, backpack slung over his shoulder. "Ready," I replied, logging out of my workstation. As we walked out of the co-working space, I caught my reflection in the window, confident, strong, free. The digital paper trail that had started as evidence had become something more, a record of my journey from controlled to controller of my own story. The future stretched out before us, full of possibilities, each one our own to choose.